essentially complete now. You have the people are already moved from the land. More than 90% of the villages have already been burned. They've essentially completed their ethnic cleansing. But are they going to kill all the rest off through violence and disease and hunger?
Milosevic.
Pardon?
Slobodan Milosevic?
Yes.
Yeah, the war crimes. Yeah?
Yes, he was able to succeed, but we went in there when it was too late, and now we are waiting for when it's too late again to go to Sudan and do the same thing. Yeah.
Well, here that genocide was within Europe, and the people were white. And I have a feeling that African problems, the mantra of the international community has been African solutions to African problems. And this is one African problem, and that even the African Union has begged for the United Nations to come in. So it's beyond, I mean, they need help. One could, till the cows come home, it's useless to wonder why, you know, it hasn't happened, as it finally did in Yugoslavia. I think one real reason that the government of Khartoum does not want peacekeepers in there is because they're afraid of ending up in the Hague before the International Criminal Courts. They're very afraid of that. So, I don't know. But still, we should be doing the right thing.
Where do we go from here? I know you have said it, but where do we go from here to get our elected officials, to get the international community to actually do something? I understand you said to write to your congressmen, write to your senators.
Emails won't cut it. You've got to write to them and call them and tell them in no uncertain terms what has to be done. And say this: we need a robust UN peacekeeping force in there. Kofi Annan has recommended 24,000. I think that's right. No less will do. And they have to be, you know, given all the equipment and paid well and be top quality troops to go in there. That's what has to happen.
What is the purpose of the United Nations when they are having such great problems getting in to do its mission,
right? Its
purpose of why it was founded after World War II.
Right.
If they cannot accomplish their mission, what is their purpose right now?
They're still the best institution in principle that we have. The shortcomings of the United Nations have never been more apparent. The United Nations, the body that votes on what is needed here, a Chapter 7 mandate. Chapter 7 means we can go in without the permission of the government of Khartoum. This is what is needed right now, and everybody knows it. So if we have enough political will to push through a Chapter 7 mandate, then we can override the government of Khartoum and get those peacekeeping forces in there. That hasn't happened because to get a Chapter 7 mandate, it'd have to be passed within the Security Council. Who sits in the Security Council? Russia and China, and they vetoed more than 7 attempts to get that. So here we see revealed the very bones of the United Nations and its flaws. For myself, I would wish that the Secretary General Kofi Annan would come forward and say in no uncertain terms what the failure is. Not the failure of the institution and the ideals it represents. The failure, let the failure lie with the member states. And be clear, make no mistake. Let the body represent its highest ideals. Let him say what should be done and say it loud and clear. He should be on every TV show, every radio show, all over the world, stating loud and clear what needs to happen. And let the failure fall and the condemnation fall where it belongs, squarely with the Security Council and Russia and China, and shame on them.
Why do you think he's not doing that as a black man?
I think he is a quietly spoken man, and I would recommend that he abandon all cautious language and go out there now. He's only going to be in until the end of this year. His time is limited. I've sent my letter of recommendation to him. I've been clear about that. These are my personal feelings, but I think it's the appropriate thing to do at this time.
There is so much apartheid and domestic violence against, well, against the country of Africa, the genocide. Why do you think that we are living in 2006? Why do you think so much apartheid is still going on today in that continent?
On the continent, when you say apartheid, do you mean, be specific as to where and which kinds, or are you speaking of a world of viewing black and white as differently, or are you speaking within a certain country?
Well, the first one is how the world views Africa,
Okay.
and the second thing is how we almost don't go over there to protect those who are being killed, abused, disenfranchised, etc.
It's a huge philosophical question, and one that I have a ready answer for it because I have a family that is a multinational, multiracial, multi-disabled family. And the way I view my position as a human being, as being a member of the human family, blood means nothing to us. Our love is what holds us together. My 14 children, I as a single mother, and my 14 children are not all related in blood by any means, but that never question the ferocity of our love or our commitment to each other. We are in every sense a family. Now, taken in a larger sense, we are in every sense a human family.
Yes.
And when one of us is suffering, we all suffer. And when we fail to respond, we are diminished in essential ways. We are now defining ourselves by our response to Darfur, our response as human beings. I don't care what country you're in. The old philosophy 101, you walk by a pond and you see a baby drowning. Do you have a moral obligation to save the baby? Most people would say, indeed. Well, how about if you're late for your job? Indeed. How about if the pond is through the woods and you can only hear the crying? Do you have a moral obligation then? Well, if I hear the cries, sure. What if someone tells you that a baby's crying? A mile away, a baby's drowning. A mile away. Do you have a moral obligation if you know the baby's drowning? Now here you're getting into another area. Well, if I know the baby's drowning, perhaps I do. I think people are forgetting their moral obligation. People are dying on another continent, and it's too easy to say, well, it's another continent away. There's nothing we can do. And this is what I keep saying to people and why it's so important. I can describe the horrors of what I've seen, and I have an immense responsibility to do so, having had the privilege of going there. I have the responsibility to tell you what I can never forget. But it isn't enough to tell you that, because it's easy for your viewers and everybody else to say, this is awful. And we shed our tears and say, terrible. You know, the suffering of humankind is beyond comprehension. Except that this is, with this package comes the responsibility to act. And this is Darfur. Let's not even look at broader Africa, because that's for other shows. Darfur is what I'm here to tell you. Is there something we can do? All of us. And if just even 100 people from every district wrote to their congressperson, that would affect change. Just 100 people, they would act on that.
Psychologically, how do you do it? You went there twice so far.
Yes.
How do you do it when you're actually there talking to the people?
Right.
You see the condition that they are in.
Yeah.
I'm watching the pictures and I
Yeah.
just couldn't take it.
Well, you know, when I photographed the woman's scars, her branding on her arm, the women started to show me their brandings and their scars, their sliced tendons, and how they hobble and all these things. I couldn't take any more pictures. I put down my camera in deep respect. I could only embrace them. And they said, tell people what is happening here. And I promised them, you know, through my tears and theirs, that I, who was able to leave in a helicopter, I promised them that I would tell people what is happening there. And that's what I'm doing. And they think that if people know, they will do something.
Are you working with the NAACP, the National NAACP organization, in reference to Darfur?
They haven't asked for my help at all.
And they know you are doing this.
If they need me and I can be of any service to them, let me say it loud and clear. You know, if they can do anything, I'm not sure where they have figured into this.
It's not hard to know that she's, if you're following Darfur, then you know she's involved. And so if they're following what's going on in Darfur, then they should obviously know that Mia Farrow's involved. And if they would like her to be a part of it,
yeah, I'm on board.
I mean, obviously she's here.
You have a passion to do risky, dangerous work.
Not in the abstract.
For Africa.
I have a passion for Africa, yes. I have a passion for Darfur specifically, the people of Darfur now. Yes, absolutely. It's an overriding passion. It's eclipsed so many things in my life. I cannot tell you how far it's taken me from so many ordinary things, people even. It's isolating at this level. It's very intense being me. But, you know, I'm doing what I can. It's not enough, but I'm doing what I can.
If it's fair to say that you are part of an elite celebrity group, what do you think that they have done to also educate themselves and to participate in the type of activities that you're participating in right now to educate the public and to bring awareness to people in this country?
Well, I think you may be referring to Angelina Jolie and perhaps George Clooney. I'm not aware of any others. I know that, oh, and also Don Cheadle.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Don Cheadle has been extraordinary. I can tell you that Don Cheadle and Angelina Jolie have made a huge effort to educate themselves, as I have, on the subject of Darfur. They're extremely knowledgeable, and they have thrown much of the focus that they would be receiving anyway toward this issue. George Clooney took his chances. He went to one of the most dangerous places on earth, the Chad-Darfur border, and he and his father brought back a lot of footage and a lot of focus. And I think that many people heard of the Darfur genocide who had not heard of it before, thanks to George Clooney and his father. And also thanks to Don Cheadle and Angelina Jolie, her good heart as a parent. I've never met any of the three of them, but I undoubtedly they're good people, and I applaud them for this.
You said in one of your articles that organizations need money. Money and money, because some of the things that would be needed, you can actually purchase those things there in that particular country.
Right.
While we see that the United Nations is trying to cut some of the aid reliefs, how are you going about trying to mobilize and trying to get the business community to somehow give back where most of the aids are cut?
Well, this is something I've got to address more. I haven't been approaching the business community, and I'm not sure exactly how to do that, but I think Genocide Intervention Network is doing precisely that. And they've got a huge amount of funding from, I think, the people on Google, or, I mean, majorly. They're very, very good about that. So I've kind of left that to them. But yes, you have to look at the aid agencies that are there on the ground, in the field now. Government of Sudan is not letting any new NGOs in. So the ones that are there are the ones with the infrastructure. They've got the staff, they have the knowledge, they've got the, you know, you can't just drive around. You've got to have the passes, you've got to be able to get on the World Food Program. Helicopters is how you get around now. The roads are not safe. It's very difficult doing the job of keeping people alive. And so you should support the aid agencies that are there. Big businesses should. UNICEF has only 20% of the funding it needs to continue its work there. many of the agencies have had to pull out,
Right.
not just for the danger, the fact that they're being killed, but for the fact that they don't have the funding. And I imagine that all the agencies are at the same level, where they don't have enough funding.
Okay. Now, people who are watching right now probably, asking themselves, how did this whole genocide thing, how did it start?
In a nutshell, in 2004, a group of rebels, young men who wanted representation in the government and wanted some part of the oil revenues coming in from China. There is oil in southern Sudan, not in Darfur. The North-South agreement was ended with, that war was ended with an agreement that the South would get half of the oil revenues. None of those revenues were coming into Darfur. So in a nutshell, that's why there was a rebel uprising, and some government troops were killed, some planes were burned, and some vehicles stolen. The government of Khartoum responded with an all-out assault on the civilian population of Darfur. And that takes you up to this minute, where 90% of the villages have been destroyed, about 500,000 people have been killed, and 4 million displaced. 2 million are living in those camps. So that's the result of this attack, not just on the rebel forces, on the entire civilian population.
Do you think that the war in Iraq and also the current Middle East crisis have hampered your efforts?
Without question, we don't have any money. All our money is going into Iraq. I don't even know how many billions have gone into Iraq.
And the media is focusing also on...
Media is focusing. There's Lebanon, there's Iraq going south, and Darfur is way under the radar, maybe 16th on the list.
Wow.
You know, government of Sudan, every last person in Darfur could die. It probably wouldn't even make half the headlines.
When's the last time you remember turning on the news and seeing something about Darfur on any of the national news stations?
This is going on under the radar. You know, so I don't think we have the stomach to get involved. I don't think we have the funding. You know, we have Somalia-itis too. You know, after Somalia, Black Hawk Down incident, we went in there and got creamed. And you know, nobody wants to put American troops on the ground anywhere. Yeah, I think you know, all of this contributes to, you know, kind of hands off. This is, I think, why we didn't respond to Rwanda as we should have.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at, I think you have to look at Darfur through the prism of Rwanda rather than through the prism of Iraq. If you look at it through the prism of Iraq, you get one answer. If you look at it through the lens of Rwanda, you get a very clear answer. Something needs to be done, and now.
Do you plan to return to Darfur anytime soon?
I hope to in October, if I get a visa. If I get a visa.
So
it's
that
very
would be-
hard to get a visa from the government of Khartoum, and I hope they're not watching this show. I hope they haven't seen any of my shows, actually. We'll see.
That will be your third trip.
Yes.
What
I
do-
want to stay longer next time, and I want to travel around and take a, well, I'm not going to even say about that. I'll tell you what, I promise you when I come back, assuming I come back,
Yes.
I will come back and see you.
Thank you. And when you go, what would be your goals different from the past 2 visits?
Well, unfortunately, the situation there is way, way worse each time I've gone back. And if there's any Darfur to return to by October, I'll go back into a situation so desperate that even my very vivid vocabulary will be hard-pressed to tell the tale. And I'll take photographs, and I'll once again remind people what's going on.
It's a huge risk, I think, and I've talked to her about that, about going back, particularly what's going on now, because there's really no protection.
There was no protection last time, but yeah, I mean, some things are worth doing.
Now, for both of you, Tim, where can people go to get in touch with you? I know you have a website. How can people get in touch?
Sure. I mean, they can go to our website, which is dhsthepromise on oneline.com, or they can contact me at Danbury High School. I'm easy to find. I'm right at the high school. They can come there, they can email me at the high school, you can go online, look up Danbury High School, my email address is right there. It's also on the website, and if anybody wants any further information on anything that we've done, they can certainly contact me, and our website has a lot of other resources that are linked to it. So,
okay. How can people see what you are doing? Do you have a website? Do you send them somewhere like
I should get a website set up. Maybe one of my kids will set one up. Many of the photographs you saw here today were printed in People magazine. To their credit, they responded beautifully, and they maintained the integrity of the purpose throughout. I think it may be still on their website, but I should set it up and put my photographs on a website.
and I do have some, and
You
and
can
I
put
think
them on your
yeah,
website.
I'm sure she would give me permission to
Totally.
put them up on the website, and we can certainly do that so that people can see
Yeah,
them,
that'd be good since
And
you
we'll-
got a website.
and we'll appropriately label them.
Okay. What I want, we have about 8 more minutes left. What I want to hear from you is your first time you went to Darfur. Tell me what you went through from the time you were trying to get the visa to go, just when you actually got there. Tell me vividly what you went through when you saw these people. Please
Before
give me a
I went,
picture.
I had to take a 4-hour examination, which is a security examination of what you do when you're abducted and how to protect yourself as best you
4
can.
hours?
4 hours. You carry a walkie-talkie 24/7 on your person. You check in twice with UN headquarters, which is based in Khartoum. Once you fly into Darfur, of course, there's no telephones or electricity. I mean, you're out of touch. But you have these thuraya, these walkie-talkies, and you're prepared in the sense that you prepare yourself in the ways that we talked about here. I mean, I knew the statistics, I knew the reasons, I knew the history. I had prepared myself for a number of months. I knew all the players, and I knew what was happening. You carry a card, always, like what you do when you're abducted. I still have the card. Do you look your captor in the eye? What do you do? I could tell you all about it. It's another time. So when you go in, you've got your walkie-talkies. You're flying in on a World Food Program airplane, and you're in Darfur. And then from there, you see all these bombing aircraft at the airports in Darfur that was clogged with humanitarian helicopters and aircraft, but also bombers, attack helicopters and bombers, governmental ones. And you can't take any pictures in these airstrips at all, but it was heart-stopping. When you first fly across the desert toward a refugee camp, I mean, I think, a huge sense of empathy in that I feel very much. Yet nothing prepares you for seeing this sea of tarps. It was 2004, it was early days. They had not built any. Now there's a sort of permanence, a terrible and sinister permanence to the camps in that they've built walls. They have the tarps, but they have walls of grass and reeds so that there can be some circulation. Then they were just lashed to the desert floor, these tarps, and families living under them, and no sanitation and no organization, and people coming in off the desert, coming in by the thousands every day, and not knowing how to connect or how they can get food. And I met a young girl who was pregnant. She had been raped by Janjaweed, and when they raped her, they said, "You will give birth to a light-skinned child." And the women in the camps were around her calling her Janjaweed, Janjaweed, as I said, in an Islamic culture, and all are Muslim. The raped are guilty. So she was shunned. Her family had been all killed, and she had come there. She was pregnant, and I said, "What is anyone doing for you?" And she went to her little piece of tarp. She pointed to it, and then she handed me an envelope, And it was a plastic thing, and inside was a little blue folded thing, which she said she's supposed to have her baby on. And that was it. So we got her registered. She didn't know how to do anything, and she was in terrible levels of trauma. And her name was Fatima. And I just thought, I mean, my commitment after seeing this, and the children, UNICEF had created what they call a child-friendly space where children were drawing. And what they were drawing pictures of was attack helicopters of their fathers' heads being cut off, blood everywhere, of men all over their mothers. I mean, you cannot believe the crayon drawings of the children there, and I have some of them. But it was a place that was guarded. But even as we were there, and I was talking to a group of women, Janjaweed attacked the camp. We were called on our walkie-talkie. We could never be more than 35 feet from a vehicle. We ran to our vehicle. God only knows what happened to the women I was talking to. We were in our vehicle leaving across the sand with the UN flag flying, just heading for our helicopters, having no idea. I saw the guys going in. Their faces are covered, swathed in black paraphernalia, camels. And I left the women to their fate. And right then I knew my commitment would be lifelong if necessary, and 100% and no less.
I have one more question for you. The conflict has been described by the mass media as ethnic cleansing and genocide. The Bush administration of the United States and the United States Congress have declared it to be genocide. Through the United Nations has declined to do so. The United Nations declined to call it a genocide. Now,
and I know why.
Why is this?
The United Nations, because once they call it a genocide, then they're bound to act. And because they can't get the action and traction that they need to get this Chapter 7 mandate, they cannot use the word. And the most outspoken person at the United Nations has been Jan Egeland, who has called it atrocities of the worst kind. They know precisely what it is, but they're afraid if they say it, they'll have to act, and since they can't act, so it's a little game of semantics here.
Right, semantics, yep. Yes, yes ma'am. Well, we have 1 minute. I would like for each of you, we have 30 seconds, for each of you to say the last word, please.
I'll leave the last word to you.
Well, no, I'm just
I've had many last words.
No, this is just wonderful that we're here, and the purpose being to advance the knowledge of the situation. And as we stated earlier, you know, before I came here, I was Google alerted and saw what was going on actually today with 2 AU workers being killed. So the situation is deteriorating, and the fact that we're here and we're trying to push this forward is a positive step, and we're just hopeful. Support
your humanitarian agencies and get action from our legislators.
Okay. Tim, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching Ideas at Work.
Well, I'm feeling blue 'cause I'm without you. I'm missing you. When you're out of town, it just brings me down. I'm missing you. I miss you in the morning, miss you in the afternoon, yeah. I miss you in the evening, baby. I miss you in the nighttime.